You're watching Fox 9 All Day.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks so much for watching All Day Live. I'm Amy Hockert, looking forward to a great day today, a great couple of hours. Here's just some of the things we have on tap for you today. We've got some weather that's moving into the state. I don't know if you've heard. It's going to likely mess things up for your morning commute, and then depending upon where you are in Minnesota, you may get more, you may get a little less. Maybe you won't get much at all. Keith Marler is going to join us here in a minute to chat about that. Plus, those two NASA astronauts who have been in the International Space Station now for 9 months are on their way home, splashdown later this afternoon. So we're going to talk with an astronomy professor because we have a lot of questions. What's it been like for them up there? What does this mean for the space program overall? Had a great chat with him just a little bit ago on the phone, and I think you'll enjoy hearing from him as well. We're going to talk a little sports. Unfortunately, the Timberwolves winning streak came to an end last night in very dramatic fashion. But we're not panicking. Nobody's panicking. You know, it's going to be just fine. So we'll have that conversation with Ahmad Hicks. The Wild, though, pulled one out. So we'll talk about all of your sports as we head into March Madness as well. And then also today, I don't know if you've seen this story this morning. Shane Wells met these two gentlemen, two twin brothers, who have made Perkins a part of their morning routine. That doesn't sound all that unusual, but they've been doing it in a way that if you haven't seen this, you may not believe. And now Perkins is actually saying thank you to them in a pretty big way. So stay tuned for that. A lot more coming up here on the show. A great couple of hours here. So March in Minnesota, as I'm kind of looking out the window here, you know, it's this roller coaster ride that we always jump on, and then we just kind of hold on and see what it brings. Yesterday in the 60s, now we're looking at a blizzard warning for southern Minnesota, and here in the metro, we could see, you know, anything from a winter storm watch in the southern counties to a winter weather advisory a little bit farther north. But we asked Keith Marler just to help us understand what is going on. Keith?
Amy, a mess is a-coming for some of the state. Some of the state has no clue. Well, not necessarily. Some of the state just won't see it. Area of low pressure that was moving on shore across the Pacific Ocean and into the west coast came ashore yesterday, now crossing the Rocky Mountains and is headed up our way and heading into Wisconsin. Ultimately, you can see the path of that with blizzard warnings across parts of Kansas, Nebraska, into Iowa for later today and tonight, and then into our neck of the woods for late tonight and into tomorrow for heavy snow and a combination of that with wind. Wind will gust to 50 plus miles per hour, causing whiteout conditions and probably be some road closures as well. The blue zone would be winter weather advisories, and the white zone, that's still the winter storm watch. This will be upgraded at some point this afternoon or this evening into some type of advisory or warning. I'm going to go with probably a blizzard warning for southeastern Minnesota as a whole, but heavy snow and strong winds to 50 miles per hour. Again, whiteouts probably. Visibility is less than, again, quarter mile, and there'll probably be road closures on Interstate 90, probably on Interstate 35, just like we had 2 weeks ago on Wednesday. Heavy, wet snow combined with a blowing wind will cause visibility restrictions as the snow is falling, but once it splats, it'll be hard to move around. Advisory zone into the Twin Cities is for the lesser amounts of snow and the still gusty winds, but not quite as powerful. And again, the watch is in place for the wobble of uncertainty that's still in place, because as this storm approaches, the path will determine greatly the sharp cutoff of not just how much is going to fall, but also snow versus no snow. That's going to be a big issue as well, as the Northwest Metro will see much lesser amounts. And if it wobbles too far to the south, which it might be doing, there might not be almost any snow on the north side of town. If it wobbles too far to the north, which is looking less likely, the North Metro might be in it as well. So for today, clearing back to sunshine. Overall, sure, that's all well and good. We'll go to the 50s, but here comes the snow overnight tonight, or at least a wintry mix. We'll tease that into tomorrow morning's commute, but there won't be much falling at the beginning of the commute. We'll certainly evolve it through the commute, and then we'll see some accumulating snows roll. This is as it stands right now, Amy. The snow begins to kind of accumulate over the course of the commute, and then it really gets going. The heaviest of snows in southeastern Minnesota. Notice that razor sharp edge right through the Twin Cities overall. I'm just going to leave my hand there through the noon hour and through the 4 o'clock hour, and notice it just pivots right there and gets out of here by 7 o'clock. Tomorrow evening, it starts to shut down over the evening commute. Should stop falling by that point. And then we're back into sunshine as we go on into the day on Thursday. So this is just a Wednesday affair. When it comes to those totals, this is as it stands at the moment. A trace to 2 inches on the northwest side of town, 2 to 5 on the southeast side of town with some pluses there. The pluses are for 6 and 7s. If it wobbles to the south, like it might be doing, we might have to take out some of these on the north side of town, much like what you see from Pine City to St. Cloud. Not much of anything. That might creep on down. But the 5 to 10 plusers, this is the bullseye as always across the southeastern part of the state. This is where the 50-mile-per-hour winds will go. So there's a lot of wiggle room here. I don't think we're going to see the 10 inches up into the southeast metro unless it shifts to the north, but all signs are pointing to either a static or a slight southern shift to the system as it stands. Talk about frustrating. This is why I love March. And I put love in quotes. I do not. On the back side of this, we'll warm up, we'll melt things off, and things are looking up again as we head on into Thursday and Friday. Friday, we're back to around 50 again. Amy?
Like it never happened. All right, Keith, thank you. A big update today, checking some headlines here in the missing college student in the Dominican Republic. So the parents of Sudiksha Konanki have sent a letter to Dominican authorities early this morning saying that they do not believe there was foul play in their daughter's disappearance, and they actually want investigators to move forward with a death declaration. Now, Konanki, a University of Pittsburgh student from Virginia, disappeared. It was spring break on the Rio Republica resort in the early morning hours of March 6th. She's seen in that surveillance video going with a group to the beach shortly after 4 a.m. It sounds like the power went out in the hotel and they sent everybody down or outside, and this group went to the beach. Most of the group is seen on a video then leaving the beach before 6 a.m. But a young man by the name of Joshua Reeby, St. Cloud State University student, is believed to be the last person to see her alive. There is video showing him leaving the beach around 10 a.m. Now, Reeby has never been accused of a crime. Dominican authorities, though, have held him in his resort room as a key witness as the search efforts have continued for Konanki. But again, the very latest here this morning is the letter from her parents to Dominican authorities saying they believe that she, along with Dominican authorities, believe that she drowned and there was no foul play involved. So we'll continue to see what happens with Joshua Reeby to see if he is allowed to leave the country. Also this afternoon, we are looking for an update today on this story, the condition of a 3-year-old who was hit by a vehicle in Eagan. This happened at about 4 o'clock yesterday, the 3500 block of Springwood Path. Police say the child was actually trapped underneath the vehicle. Officers were able to free the child and provide medical aid before the child went to the hospital. But again, no words on that child's condition this afternoon or any details about what happened. So we'll keep you posted on that one as well. Really quick update on the Feeding Our Future trial, which has been going on now for about 5 weeks or so. This is the one that's for the founder, Amy Bach, and another defendant, Salim Saeed. This is winding down now after more than a month. The defense actually rested late this morning for both of these defendants. Prosecution is set to start closing arguments here after lunchtime. So we've been in touch with our Rob Olson, who's at the courthouse, and we'll get any updates to you as we get them. Normally we check in with Rob during our 1 o'clock hour, but because of the lunch hour today, I'm not sure we're going to be able to do that. But rest assured, Ryan says we will. Okay, so he'll have some time to check in with us. Okay, 1:05, so stay tuned as this thing starts to wind down. Also, new late this morning, early afternoon, Adam Fravel is appealing his murder conviction now to the Minnesota Supreme Court. If you remember, in December, Fravel was sentenced to life in prison for the murder of Madeline Kingsbury. A jury convicted him of first-degree murder, among other crimes. Madeline Kingsbury disappeared in March of 2023. Her body later found near the home of his parents. And Fravel and Kingsbury were partners. She was the mother of their 2 children. So new today is Adam Fravel's appeal to the Minnesota Supreme Court. Also, just a couple little things we're watching, not little things, a couple things that we're watching this afternoon, but just give you a little update here. 2 presidents and let's slow down and do that again. 2 presidents, 1 very important phone call. President Trump wants to make a deal with Russian President Vladimir Putin to end the war in Ukraine. Kind of some conflicting reports leading up to this as far as expectations. Some reports are saying that Putin is in no rush to follow this 30-day ceasefire proposal from President Trump, and they don't expect any sort of breakthroughs. However, President Trump has said, even this morning, quote, "We're going to see if we can work a peace agreement, a ceasefire and peace, and I think we'll be able to do it," end quote. And this would be the first phone call between President Trump and President Putin since peace talks between the U.S. and Ukrainian officials about a week ago. That was in Saudi Arabia. So we'll follow that for you too and see if we have any updates on that. Also, really quickly, President John F. Kennedy's assassination file is expected to be released today without any redactions. So this is President Trump making good on this promise that he made during his campaign. So 80,000 files, but it's not clear how many are among the millions of pages of records that have already been made public. So we'll see what happens. Some people have studied what's to be released so far, but the government say that the public should not anticipate any earth-shattering revelations from the newly released documents. But of course, there's still intense interest in all of this. So we'll see what happens as the day goes on. And wow, have you been glued to this story like a lot of us have been glued to this story in the last several days? Big day for NASA today. These two astronauts who have been stuck on the International Space Station since last spring. Remember, they were just supposed to be there a short time and then it got extended. They're heading home. So Butch Wilmore, Sonny Williams said goodbye to the space station overnight, early morning. They hopped on that SpaceX capsule with a couple of other astronauts. They left the Space Center again overnight. They're expected to splash down off the Florida coast at 4:57 our time. So about 5 o'clock our time. Wilmore Williams only expected to be gone about a week or so after leaving last June. Then a lot of problems popped up with the Boeing Starliner. SpaceX now taking over. So coming up in just a little bit here, in about 15 minutes or so, 20 minutes, we are going to be talking with an astronomy professor who's going to sort of tell us what this all means, because I feel like we have a lot of questions and a lot of us are kind of pulled into this now. The curiosity factor is very, very high. So we'll check in with him in just a little bit. Okay, at the Capitol today, a lot going on. Just two more things here before we hit a break. So it is Disability Services Day today. There was a rally this morning. Heard some of the folks impacted by disability service legislation and funding. So they're urging legislators to protect and prioritize that funding. They say that some of the proposed cuts that Governor Walz has would actually send them backwards in their causes. So in about 30 minutes, stay with us because we're going to talk with Representative Kim Hicks. She represents the Rochester area. And she's going to have a press conference at about 3 o'clock today. We're going to get her ahead of time. She's one of the lawmakers who is part of a bipartisan group that wants to enshrine federal disability laws into our state constitution. So we'll ask her about that. What does that mean? And any differences between the ADA and what we currently have here in our state. Okay, one more here before we hit a break. I know that was a lot. Thanks for bearing with me. This is a good one, though. So this is a little reward for you for staying with all that reading. An update on that pup that has been causing quite a stir in Chaska over the weekend. And Ryan, I don't know if we have the photo that we can show at all. Oh, okay. I'm trying to think if I can find it really quick. It's super cute. So in Chaska, apparently over the weekend, there was a hubbub about this dog. And Ryan, did you reach out to Chaska PD by any chance?
I did, but didn't hear anything
Nothing
back quite
yet.
yet, but
okay.
Short notice.
Okay, yeah, so Chaska PD, if you're paying attention, if you're listening, or if you know somebody at Chaska PD, we are trying to reach them or the family. So basically, there were some collaborative efforts going on in the community of Chaska over the weekend, and they were able to safely capture a dog, reunited her with her family. So what makes this so special? Well, this pup, Bella, they say, ran 22 miles over the course of a month and a half while she was missing. So they've got her, she's safe, she's back with the family, and that is really, really, really good news. So hang on with me here 1 second. I'm gonna see if I can, I don't know if you can see that, but there you go. There's the pup. That's on the Chaska X. They posted that on X. So good job, community. Way to go. It's hard. It's hard to sort of get the dogs to trust you, and you got to lure them, not chase them, and there's a whole thing. So good job, Chaska. All right, let's take a quick break. And on the other side of it, a lot of regional headlines for you. Amber has been busy digging, finding all these regional headlines, and we've got some good ones, including one that's going to be, I think, a pretty big talker about how many people can live in a house in Fargo who are not related to each other. just stay with us because it's worth it. All Day Live continues after this break.
You're watching Fox 9 All Day.
Thank you for being with us for Fox 9 All Day. Were you with us for the parade yesterday? I hope you were. We had such a blast covering the St. Patrick's Day parade live. Got to bring it to folks in its entirety. We had Lauren and Adam out there, and it just was fun. And I hope you had a chance to see that. If not, there'll be another parade. There'll be more. Let's check some of your regional headlines here. We're going to do a couple now, and then we'll do a couple a little bit later on as well. But a couple that we wanted to get in front of you here in Mankato, starting things off, there was a clerk at a 24-hour Quick Trip who was killed early this morning. This was an apparent stabbing. Police arrived there just after 3 o'clock this morning and found the worker unresponsive on the floor with a knife wound. They were able to identify a 28-year-old suspect using some surveillance video, tracked him down at his home, and they arrested him. Apparently, without incident, neither the victim nor the suspect have been identified publicly yet, so we'll keep an eye on that for you. Also, this is a story that I just was telling you about right before the break. Oh, no, we're going to do this one. Hang on. Hold on. We're going to get to Fargo in a second. Let's go to Winona. Let's go to the Winona area, eastern side of the state here. So we are learning about funeral plans now for the Goodview fire chief and a little bit more information about his passing. So in a press release from the fire department, they say that Chief Jason Gruitt died at his home on March 12th. Gruitt's family also reminding other first responders about the importance of mental health. If you're a first responder, anybody else looking for mental health support, the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is available 24/7. You can call or text 988. And if you would like to honor Chief Gruitt, his funeral is this Thursday at the Remlinger Car Museum. That's starting at 11 a.m. After the funeral, there will be a 15-mile procession to St. Mary's Cemetery as well. And I need to get this town. Is that? Ryan, let me just double check this really quick because I've never heard of this town. I want to make sure it's not just a misspelling. It is Meniska, I think, is the name of the town. And I apologize, a really small community right along 61. So I just want to make sure that I got that right. That's St. Mary's Cemetery there in Meniska, and that's where they will be ending. Okay, one more here for you, going to Fargo. This is a story that Amber found several months ago, and every once in a while we say, I wonder what happened to those guys in Fargo. Well, now we know. Interesting update. So the Inforum has this update for us. The city of Fargo has denied a group of college football players' plea to live together under the same roof. So this group of 5 did their final appeal to the Fargo City Commission yesterday, asking them to make an exception to this 1950s city ordinance that limits unrelated roommates to no more than 3 people. So 3 people, if you're not related, no more than 3 can live under the same roof. The commission voted 4-1 to uphold that rule. Some of the players now have to move out mid-semester, and they tell reporters they're not quite sure where to go, what to do right now. It's a financial burden, according to them. So really interesting that they upheld the city ordinance. And the one person who voted for it, the city commissioner, said, you know, I used to live with 5-6 roommates as well in college. As we all know, I went to college there. It's a big college town. So it'd be interesting to follow up on this and see what ends up happening ultimately with this. But for now, looks like it stays put. The ordinance stays put. Okay, let's go to our interview. This story, tell you what, this has been so interesting for so many. Even if space isn't your jam, I feel like this has been so interesting. We know now that the 2 astronauts are coming home after they've been in space for 9 months. So Sonny Williams and Barry Butch Wilmore left the International Space Station in a SpaceX Dragon spacecraft early this morning. They started this about 17-hour journey towards splashdown. It's going to happen off the Florida coast. Our time, 4:47. We'll let you know if that changes. So many people have been intrigued by this. So we wanted to bring in an expert to talk a little bit about the journey, what this means for the space program as far as we can tell. Alex Gianninas is Gianninas. Did I get it?
Thank you.
Yes,
you got it.
Is assistant teaching professor of astronomy at Connecticut College. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, so first of all, I got to gauge your reaction to the way people have just been drawn to this story.
Well, I think, anytime something doesn't go quite right with the space program, people are going to be interested. Unfortunately, in the past, that has meant, some tragedies. In this case, I think we're, of course, happy that that's not the case. But nonetheless, something doesn't quite go to plan, especially when everything is planned so meticulously with the space program, from the launches to the time they spend up there. When things don't quite go right, that's going to catch everybody's attention.
Yeah. Does it feel?
This is no different.
Yeah. Does it feel? I mean, you're with obviously college students. Does it feel as big culturally as it feels to those of us covering it in the news?
I haven't heard all that much buzz of it about it from students necessarily. I think because the astronauts have of course been relatively safe, although it's taken a long time to get them back. They've been safe on the space station. They've been keeping busy. Apparently, they basically have worked them into the regular rotation, and so they've taken on some of the duties and helped out with what the other astronauts up there were doing, the research. And regular maintenance of the International Space Station. So I guess there hasn't been that much drama other than knowing when exactly they were going to come back.
Wait, so are you telling me that the media is creating drama here with this?
I would never suggest such a thing.
No. It's just, I think for those of us who don't live in this world, it is just really, really fascinating. But I appreciate that sort of bringing us back down to earth, no pun intended. Okay, so tell me a little bit about what have they been sort of doing up there? You talked a little bit about the research. What does day-to-day life look like for them for 286 days?
Right. So, in both their cases, they've actually spent time on the International Space Station before, so it's not their first time up there. So they have been basically helping out with the regularly planned research that was going on already, maintenance, and of course, another thing that all astronauts have to do when they're up there is actually exercise. So they have a very strict training regimen because up in the microgravity in orbit, their muscles aren't really doing anything. right? We don't obviously think about it on a day-to-day basis, but whether it's just walking around or standing up, our muscles are actually doing work. And in space, they don't do that. And so if they don't actually exercise regularly, they're going to have a difficult time when they come back down. So in addition to doing all of that other important work, they also have to be careful about exercising. They have special treadmills that they're basically strapped to the treadmill so they don't float away, and other sort of elastic sort of exercises they do for sort of strength training. So that's another very important thing that all astronauts have to do when they're on prolonged missions, as they have been unintentionally in this case.
So like sea legs, but space legs. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, it probably won't be surprising if when they are taken out of the capsule, they'll probably first be, I mean, they're splashing down, so they're not landing on the ground, but you probably won't see them walking very easily initially. So whether they're once they're brought on board to a ship, presumably they might be in wheelchairs for a little while until they basically get reacclimated to the gravity here on Earth.
Wow. You mentioned, things didn't go sort of as planned. Fortunately, everybody's safe, and they'll be back safely shortly. But what does that mean for the space program in general, from an outsider's perspective? Us looking in and going, this didn't go like it was supposed to.
Right. Well, I think what it tells us ultimately is that the space program has actually come a long way. So, in my lifetime, there have been two unfortunate tragedies: the Challenger accident in 1986, Columbia in 2003. If we go further back, we can think of, the drama of Apollo 13. So the fact that, NASA and the space program has been able to basically say, we don't need to rush this. We have a perfectly safe space station where we can have them stay. There have been resupply missions to make sure that there has been plenty of food for them. There was work found for them to do. So the fact that we have that capability now, where we're not rushing to bring them back, says something about how much we've progressed in terms of the space program, having the International Space Station be there, but also, the fact that even though there were hiccups, they were brought up by one company's space capsule, they're coming down with another company's space capsule. That wasn't the case, even 20 years ago. So I think that says something about how much we've progressed in that time.
Yeah, and can I ask you just a little bit more about that too, that sort of privatization of space exploration? What do you make of it?
I mean, I think it's a great indication about how confident we now are about being able to put people and equipment in low Earth orbit. Obviously for a long time that was a monopoly held solely by NASA, but as time has gone on, obviously costs have gone down, and so it makes sense now for private companies to take up that mantle, and provide us with now multiple options of how we go into low Earth orbit. So I think that again is also just an indication of where things are and where things are going as we look to the future.
And so when do you want to go up?
I'll go up tomorrow if they'll take me. I probably need a little bit of training first, but I wouldn't say no.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's really it's just fascinating to see. And so Butch and Sunny, 286 days, but that's not the longest. And you've alluded to the fact that they've both been there before. It seems like forever to us, maybe, and the fact that it was extended probably leans into that a little bit, but not the longest. So, in fact, I think there's a Minnesota astronaut that spent quite a bit of time up there as well.
That's right. So I took a second and I looked this up. So this is not something I have committed to memory. But the longest astronaut to go up spent a little over a year, 371 days. And yes, Mark Van de Hey, who has a strong Minnesota connection, actually spent 355 consecutive days. And so he is the second in line in terms of the longest consecutive days. There have been other astronauts who have spent total amounts of time over several missions longer, but in terms of one single trip up there, Mark Van de Hey has the second longest sort of a streak, and so they've kind of got up there, but they haven't approached breaking any records.
Nice. You're on the East Coast. Where will you be at 5:57 this evening?
I'll probably have just enough time to get home to put on the live stream and watch it when I get home in my home in Glastonbury, Connecticut.
Very cool. All right. Thank you so much, Professor Alex Gianninas from Connecticut. We really appreciate your time today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right. Take care. All right, let's take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk sports. There's some stuff that happened yesterday, some good, some not so great. Disability Services Day at the state capitol. Also, a couple of bros at Perkins. I'm not going to tell you anything else. Just stay tuned. It's worth it. All Day Live continues right after this.
You're watching Fox 9 all day.
Welcome back to All Day Live. Let's talk some sports now. The Timberwolves dropped one last night in overtime, and we'll kind of get into some of the details. It was an 8-game winning streak that snapped. Ahmad Hicks joining us now. Ahmad, and so thanks for popping in. First of all, cool sweatshirt. Very cool.
I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm trying to dress casual here, while I'm not in the studio.
Yeah, you and Simone have like the best clothes ever. You guys always just look so good. I'm so impressed by.
I'm just trying to keep up with her, Amy. That's all.
Good luck with that. All right, so let's talk about these Timberwolves. Nobody expected them to just keep winning. It's had to come at some point, right? I think for some people though, it's the who that they lost to, right?
Yeah, especially last night, a shorthanded Indiana Pacers team. But I mean, it is what it is. Like sometimes in sports, some teams just have a good night, and it doesn't matter if it's your best player in Tyrese Halliburton or one of your mid-level players. Like the Indiana Pacers had several mid-level players showing up last night and performing. So I think it is what it is. It's okay to take those lumps and bruises in the regular season. You can't win them all, kind of like you just alluded to. But I think what we'll all focus on right now is how the Timberwolves bounce back, because that's what's most important.
Yeah. If I was good at Photoshop, I would have done that thing where you take you take Steph Curry's face with half of the face, and then you take Obi Toppin's face and meld them together. Because what was going on?
He was on fire last night.
Who is Obi Toppin, and what in the world happened?
It's so funny because I used to hear about Obi Toppin coming out of college all the time, because he played in the what is the conference now? I'm drawing a blank now. Atlantic Coast Conference in college basketball, yes. And so I used to cover him when I was in St. Louis, and I covered the St. Louis Billikens. So I knew about him all the time and his talented basketball team. But of course, when he got drafted, it was like a little up and down. He was never a consistent basketball player. But I think now he's sort of coming into his own. And then last night was just a coming out party Unfortunately, against the Minnesota Timberwolves, they just could not stop him by any means last night. He got that game-winning bucket in overtime. But, I mean, he is a former first-round pick. You know, he is very talented. So if you're going to get beat by somebody, at least it's by somebody who was supposed to be that good and do what he did last night.
Okay, so I guess how did they bounce back? I mean, that was the second of two in a row, right? And then I think they've got the Pelicans maybe coming up, a couple of games.
Yeah.
So how do they bounce back?
I think you should get back to playing their basketball, limit their turnovers, and, you know, make good shot selections. I think sometimes with Anthony Edwards and his improved jumper that we've seen this season, he can be a little erratic with his shot selection, and he likes to have a lot of heat checks and just pull up from anywhere. Get back to the basics. Get Jaden McDaniels involved, because when he's making baskets offensively, this team is even tougher to stop. Love to see what Jalen Clark is doing off the bench right now. He's just a spark plug defensively, and I think everyone just needs to keep defending at a high level, Julius Randle, Rudy Gobert included. And I think when you defend, offense will come, and then when the offense comes, you know, everything just opens up for this Timberwolves team.
Yeah, a really physical game last night too. It was incredible. Obviously would have wanted to come out on top. I have to go back, Ahmad, and I have to go through the schedule and mark down how many one possession or even two possession games the Timberwolves have dropped because I feel like the way the Western Conference is stacked right now, a couple of those and we would be in a much different place.
You know, I feel like that's the story with the Western Conference every year right now, especially since LeBron James has came over to the Los Angeles Lakers. Every game just means a little bit more, and it's always those one possession games where you just have 10 or 12 turnovers, and if you could just limit those to 6, you have a chance to win the game. And that's just the game of basketball, and really the game of any sport. You know, how you control the ball and make sure you keep it on your side and don't turn it over. And the Wolves have been notorious for turning the basketball over, you know, in recent years. But when they control the basketball, take good care of it, you know, make good shots, they're pretty good. They're, you know, one of the best in the NBA. So, you know, I think if every coach had the recipe or the formula to not turn the ball over, I don't think we would ever see it anymore. But I know it's something that certainly frustrates head coach Chris Finch.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, a lot of bright spots though last night, despite the ending. You said Jalen, Jaden, obviously McDaniels, Dante, Julius, they're all kind of coming together, which is great to see. Can I ask you a little bit about Vikings news? Because we're always kind of watching and seeing who's coming and going. What's the latest here even today?
Yeah, Adam Schefter just recently reported that the Vikings signed Jeff Okudah, and the Vikings confirmed that with their social media posts. It's a 1-year deal for the Vikings. And I think what this is, Jeff Okudah, so he's a former number 3 overall pick, I believe, in the 2019 draft. And 5 NFL seasons, he's played on 3 different teams. This will be his 4th team in, I believe, 5 or 6 years. So that's a big question mark. But this is a guy who had a lot of potential coming out of Ohio State in college. Like, he was supposed to be one of those Darrelle Revis type cornerbacks where you just put him on an island and he shuts some, you know, the best player down, the best wide receiver that is. But he just hasn't lived up to that potential. He's shown flashes, but he only has 2 interceptions since going into the National Football League. And if you can't get your hands on the football and take it away from opposing teams, then you won't, you know, really last long in the National Football League playing a defensive back position. But nonetheless, he has a lot of upside, and I think, you know, if put in the right situation, the right scenario with the Brian Flores, where he's not asked to do a lot but just do his job, he could be a very key player for this Vikings secondary. They re-signed Byron Murphy. He can be a number 1 type corner, but I think he goes well with the number 1 type cornerback, where he can be versatile, where he can be outside, he can go inside. So, and I know the Vikings are still asking a lot of, you know, Dwight McGlothern, a rookie last season, who will be coming into his 2nd season, and Mekhi Blackman, his 3rd season coming up. He'll be coming off an ACL injury. So, you know, they're trying to shore up that secondary just a little bit right now. I wouldn't be surprised if they brought in Shaq Griffin for 1 more year, but definitely a good move by bringing in Jeff Okudah, because they need some depth at that position right now.
All right, another good move. I mean, they're just stacking them up. I love to see it. All right, maybe can you join us next hour or 2? And
I'm going to tear down this nice setup here at home, and then I'm going to come to work and go to the station, because I have First and North right after.
Oh, that's right. Okay, sounds great. But keep the sweatshirt, because that's a very cool sweatshirt. We're digging that. So. Right.
Yes, I'll keep it. I got you.
Okay, all right. Thanks a lot. We'll see you in just a little bit. Appreciate your time. Okay, let's see. Do you want to do the Perkins story? Okay, perfect. So Going to Perkins for breakfast late at night, it's just something that people do. It's not a big deal, right? Well, a pair of brothers from the Metro has been going every day for 30 years. Our Shane Wells had a chance to sit down with them, of course, for breakfast at Perkins. And also there's a little surprise in this story too.
I don't want Mary to be mad because we have too much whipped cream.
Oh no, we're going to give you all the whipped cream.
You've earned all the whipped cream.
Okay.
You guys have been here enough. This is how you two start your morning.
You just every day. Every morning.
Okay, Marlon Merlin Smart.
Yep.
Former teachers, which is how this all started.
Yes.
You guys were in a smaller town, so you would go to the diner. Did you go every day?
Yes. We went every day in Millbank, South Dakota. And we started out at one of the local restaurants, and we enjoyed coffee with some of our colleagues from school.
Sure.
And just a nice way to start the day, get some good food, some coffee, and some conversation that got us all ready to head to school. After we retired, we moved to the cities because there's a lot more to do here of things that we like to do.
Sure.
But it was very good. It was very good teaching in rural South Dakota.
30 years later, you're still coming here. This particular
Yes.
one every day. Do you
Yes.
sit here?
Yes,
Yes.
we sit in the same
Yes.
booth. Yes.
What about food? What do you order? Same thing?
We order the tremendous 12 every day, and we split it.
What about the coffee? Just
And
black?
always coffee, always black
Just
coffee.
black.
It's not that we're that boring. We like to do a schedule. We think it's good to get up in the morning, get going with some good coffee and food here.
When you found out you were getting this trip, did you think it was a real thing at first, or was it like, no, this can't be?
Well, what happened the day that they called us to tell us, we were sitting right in this booth.
Right
and
during our breakfast.
Sitting in a booth over there was the manager and the vice president of the company.
Whoa.
And so she offered us this trip, and we were so excited to be part of a Perkins event, plus the generosity of Perkins in offering this trip to us was just unbelievable. They're also giving us a day at Disney World, and we've not been to Disney World before, and they're very generously supporting us on that. And we've met so many friends here as well. So it's been a great experience for us over these years too. I can think of 6 or 7 different groups of friends that we did not know before we came to this Perkins. And within even the last 6 years, we've met these people and we've become very good friends with many of them. Go to their houses sometimes even. And they've become very good friends of ours. And it happened at this Perkins.
You built your own little community
Yeah,
here
yes,
in your
yeah.
retirement. Can we do a coffee cheers? Because I
Yes.
think this calls for it. You guys, thank you so much for sharing your story with us. Congratulations and enjoy your trip to Florida. We're going to check in with you after, right?
Yes,
Okay,
that would be
okay.
great. Sounds great.
Perfect. All right.
Thank you.
And of course, I spill on myself, but with that, we'll send it back to you.
We don't run a ton of stories on this during these couple of hours. We try to just keep things fluid and in real time. But I saw that story this morning, and I just said we have to do this because those guys are amazing, and I hope they have an amazing trip in Orlando. And yeah, we're going to keep in touch with them for sure. So very cool. Okay, so we went through some headlines a little bit earlier, some of the things that we're watching today. And Ryan, it sounds like you have an update for us on one of those stories.
Yeah, Amy, you mentioned it off the top of the show or in the first block there, that President Donald Trump and President Vladimir Putin were speaking by telephone today. We have kind of an update from both sides here. Very limited kind of information being shared from that phone call, but from the White House, President Trump and President Putin have agreed to seek a limited ceasefire on energy and infrastructure, and the White House is calling that the first step to ending the war in Ukraine. Now, again, that is all coming from the White House. The Kremlin here, kind of a different side. They say that President Putin told President Trump that U.S. and its allies must end military and intelligence assistance to Ukraine to halt hostilities. So I think that's, correct me if I'm wrong here, Amy, but that's what we've kind of restarted that aid to Ukraine here after President Trump had halted it at first. So Putin is hoping that the U.S. backs off that again. So again, two kind of sides. The White House account a little bit more hopeful, and it sounds like the Kremlin has kind of a different take on that call. So hopefully we'll learn a little bit more as we go along here.
Yeah, good update. Okay, sounds good. Yeah, both of those sides seeking security assurances from the U.S. as well. So there's a lot to sort out there. Do you want to take a quick break?
Let's take a break, yep.
Okay, sounds good. Let's take this break, and when we come back, we're going to talk more about the Minnesotans Disability Act, and it's National Awkward awkward moment day today. I can't wait. I can't wait for that. And then, yeah, let's check on the weather too with Keith, because we got some weather, and we'll continue to talk about that here over the course of the next hour or so. Here's Keith.
Our morning cloud cover breaks free just a little bit as we go on into the better part of the afternoon. We're getting back into a brighter condition. We'll see some sunshine into the afternoon, at least some sunshine. Not quite as warm as yesterday's 60s, but we're heading to the 50s later on today. A northeastern breeze keeps folks just to our west and our north in the 40s and then 30s up north. But we do have ourselves a little bit of snow heading our way for tomorrow, and that's why we have some winter weather advisories and blizzard warnings across the state. We've been talking about that all morning long. Of course, you can stay here on Fox Local and click a deeper weathercast. Go click on the weather tab. Otherwise, that's keeping our high around 35 for the day on Wednesday. That's mainly a southeastern Minnesota thing. Metro's just on the edge. Springtime begins on Thursday, sunshine at a high of 45, then back to 50 by Friday. Fox 9 All Day Live continues. We're back right after the break.
You're watching Fox 9 All Day.
Well, welcome back to Fox 9 All Day. Ryan Rablin is in
Still
the
here.
booth, still here. Haven't walked out on us yet. I know it's tempting some days
To what?
to walk out.
Oh, to walk out?
I just can't with you.
Never. I wouldn't do that.
Good
But you know,
stuff.
at 2 o'clock I got to have my lunch. So then that's, you know.
I know. Yep, we all know.
Yep.
And we all know every day, depending upon the day, what your lunch is going to be, mostly.
Well, there's a little lunch shaming that goes on here a little bit. But I always encourage, as a manager, I always encourage our employees to take a lunch because I think people who are well-fed are better workers. So.
That's exactly right. No, it is
I'm sticking
important.
to
We should all strive to do what you do and just like take that time for ourselves, nourish our bodies and our minds, and then we can get back at it and we're better for it, right? So
That's
good
what I
for
think.
you.
Yep.
Yeah. Really quickly, how's Henry doing? Because I don't feel like we've had a Henry update in quite some time.
Henry's doing great at daycare. It's picture day at daycare, so that should be interesting.
Oh, did you get a picture yet?
I haven't gotten any. I get some pictures of him. When he eats now, he just we have to take his shirt off. He's just in a diaper because he makes such a mess. So when we just go to daycare, it's just, we just go diaper then.
That's cute.
Yeah.
We're going to do some talkers. I just heard from our representative Hicks, who is in the Zoom waiting room.
Should we do that first?
Yeah,
that would make more sense here. Give me one second here.
You do that, and I'll kind of set things up here a little bit. while you're doing that. So it is Disability Services Day at the state capitol today. We talked about a rally a little bit earlier today to get folks who would be affected by cuts to come out and talk about how they would affect them, and to urge legislators to protect their funding and their rights. There is also a bipartisan group of lawmakers who is working on a bill that would essentially enshrine federal protections for people with disabilities into state law. So had a couple of questions about that, wanted to dive a little bit deeper. So we asked one of those lawmakers to come on. Again, it's bipartisan, and we were able to make a connection with Representative Kim Hicks, who represents the Rochester area. So Ryan's getting Representative Hicks going here, and we'll talk a little bit more about what's going on at the Capitol. And I think we're ready to go. So hi, Representative Hicks, thanks so much for joining us.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk about this legislation. And frankly, I'm like hiding in our AG's corner of the Capitol because it's Disability Day. So it's a little bit packed around here today.
Yeah, it's a big day at the Capitol. A lot of folks coming out, a lot of advocates. So tell us a little bit about the bill specifically that you're working on. And I understand, so are these new protections, or is just sort of trying to combine the ADA with our local laws?
Yeah, so Section 504 is part of the Rehab Act on the federal level from the 1970s. And it's a wonderful part of our history in the disability space. It's really a wonderful part of our civil rights movement that really enshrines our right to reasonable accommodations into law. And so the state of Minnesota send a message to people with disabilities that you matter. We want you in our communities. We want you to live in our communities, work in our communities, and be a part of our communities. We don't see you as other, we see you as part of us. And so enshrining those reasonable accommodations into Minnesota human rights law is a wonderful opportunity to send a message to Minnesotans. And should anything ever change on the federal level about Section 504, we would then have those protections in state law.
And so could you also kind of explain to us, because some people may not know, many people may not understand what it means to enshrine something. So how does that make it different? Is it another layer of protection, or can it be challenged down the road?
Yeah, so it's just another layer of protection in our civil rights law that says people with disabilities have the right to receive reasonable accommodations when they're interacting with organizations and agencies that receive state funds. And so things to think about. So for example, a college student who maybe has dyslexia. There's no such thing as an IEP in college, right? So that college student, if they have dyslexia, is going to receive reasonable accommodations of, let's say, extra time on a test so that they can have the time to read it, right? That's a reasonable accommodation that we have under federal protections right now. And this would just say that if that same student is going to an organization or a college that receives state funds and maybe doesn't receive federal funds, or maybe the federal law changes in any way, that student would still have access to those same accommodations.
And can you give some examples too, maybe in different spaces, employment, housing, things like that?
Yes. So a reasonable accommodation in employment, for example, could be if you are a person with a physical disability and utilize a wheelchair. Accessible. A reasonable accommodation could be that your office is in a space that is accessible to your wheelchair, right? A reasonable accommodation could be that you could bring a PCA to work with you if you needed cares done during the day. Those are reasonable accommodations that we see at work. We could see a lot of other reasonable accommodations in different spaces. So for example, if you are a person with a disability and you want to go to your city council meeting, right? City councils receive state funds and you are deaf and you need an interpreter. The city would need to provide you that interpreter so you can reasonably access the services at your city council.
And how about enforcement? Where does the responsibility lie in enforcing the act?
Yes, so the Minnesota Disability Act that we have introduced and are working towards achieving would be enforceable through the human rights statutes, and so through our human rights state agency.
Okay, so many really great things happening today. This is bipartisan. We talk about the fact that, things can be really tough to get through the legislature. Can you tell us a little bit about what it's been like to sort of have the support and your thoughts on, the chances of something like this actually getting through this session?
Yes, I appreciate that. Disability rights are human rights, and my colleagues on both sides of the aisle, I think, believe that and understand that. And disability is sort of a unique protected class status in that anybody can become a part of that group at any time in your life, right? And you can become a part of that group by an accident or an injury or a chronic illness, right? And then you suddenly are living in that world and trying to navigate that space. Also, people get impacted by disability because someone they love becomes a part of our community. And you suddenly realize that the world is set up a little bit differently for people with disabilities. And so I think on both sides of the aisle, we have folks who have been impacted by the disability community and recognize the humanity in the disability community and are committed to making sure that people in our community are protected and that their rights are protected and their ability to live and thrive no matter what they do in committee or what they do in our community matters.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, Representative Kim Hicks, DFL representative, representing the beautiful Rochester area. We are statewide, we're region-wide, and we love our viewers down in Rochester as well. So thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. All
Bye-bye.
right. Take care. All right, Ryan, you want to pop back in? Do we have time to kind of wrap things up before we head to our second hour here, or do you want to?
Yeah, we got about 30 seconds here, so we'll just kind of, big hour coming up here. We said Rob Olson was going to join us. He's not because court's going back in session for the Feeding Our Future trial, but we do have some notes, and we'll share that at 1 o'clock.
Okay,
so.
Very good. Yeah, big day in that trial. We have a little Zen for everybody today.
We do. This is Amber's dog.
Oh, Eddie.
Eddie.
Eddie's a she, just everybody so you know, Eddie's a she. Hi, Eddie. Going for a walk.
Come on.
Welcome back to All Day Live. I'm Amy Hockert. Ryan Rablin is with us as well in the booth. Ryan, we got some wacky weather coming our way, don't we? Yep.
Well, here I am.
There you
here
are.
I am.
It's all good.
We
We've
do
got a lot
have
of
some
moving parts.
weather, and Keith will do a better job of explaining exactly what's coming. But
Okay. It looks like I'm just reading off of our brief. You know, can I just do a shameless plug for our web
Do it.
team? And I only do this
Let me start this
because
back up.
I would do it anyway, but it would be less shameless. Okay, so when you go to a story on our website, the way that they have this the way that they lay it out is so helpful. I can't even tell you. The brief, so you have 2 or 3 bullet points of what you need to know, and then it gets kind of in depth. But if you're in a hurry, which a lot of us are, and you're trying, so let me just read you the brief of what we can expect today. So Fox 9 is tracking a winter storm set to bring snow for southern Minnesota starting Wednesday morning. Blizzard warning has been issued for parts of southern Minnesota. The snow is part of a larger system impacting the Plains states on Wednesday. So if you take a look, and you'll see this in Keith's map coming up, but anywhere from, there's like this line that he's been drawing all morning, cuts right through the metro, kind of north metro to mid, a trace to 2 inches, and then 2 to 5 as you get kind of like to the midway point of the metro, and then south 2 to 5, and then kind of as you get toward Faribault, that looks like a little bit more of a bullseye Owatonna area, 5 to 10 in that area. So he'll have the very latest for you with timing and totals and all of that, but just know that we are on top of it. And then tomorrow, Ryan, I anticipate we're just gonna do what we normally do on snow days and just kind of be here. And
Yeah, because part of this is this could stretch into the morning, into the early afternoon. So yeah, we want to be all over it. Lauren Andrago's going to be here with traffic, so that could be, I know around the noon hour, not necessarily, it's not about the volume of cars on the road, but still a number of cars on the road, and conditions could be a little bit iffy. Keith Marler's going to join us in the noon hour, Jennifer McDermott in the 1 o'clock hour, and then we're going to have a cruise out on the field tomorrow. So we have you covered here on All Day Live.
And not in a way that's, nobody's like sounding alarms, but
Nope.
it's kind of nice just to be here live over the course of 2 hours when stuff's going on, as you're trying to kind of, maybe you're digging out if you're a little farther south, and we'll bring you pictures and road conditions and that kind of thing as well. So
we know what these March snow events look like here. They come and then they're gone just like that. By Thursday, we won't even be remembering this.
Right. Wait, is it tournament time? Hold on. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, by the time March Madness starts.
Also, I think boys state basketball tournament right on time. Just like with the hockey last.
You're talking about that tournament.
That tournament.
That's a big one too.
It is a big one too.
Yep.
Okay, sounds good. Let's see.
Do some headlines here, Amy?
Let's do some headlines. That sounds good. Let me get situated. We had some good talkers that we didn't get to last hour too. Maybe at the end of this hour we can get.
We can
to
do
some
that.
of
Yep.
those too, including it's National Awkward Moment Day. So I hope get your thinking cap on. I need you to think about your most awkward moment. Right.
It's kind of every day for me, really.
No, you're so cool. You're so cool, Ryan. Okay, so yeah, let's run through some of these headlines quickly and just kind of get you up to speed and reset a little bit here as we are just past the top of the hour here at 1 o'clock. This is kind of one of the bigger stories today, especially locally, kind of. There's this Minnesota tie that we've been following. So a big update on the missing college student in the Dominican Republic. So the parents of Sudiksha Kananki have sent a letter now to Dominican authorities saying that they do not believe there was foul play in their daughter's disappearance, and they actually want investigators to move forward now with a death declaration. Kananki, if you've been following the story, University of Pittsburgh student disappeared on spring break in the Dominican Republic at a resort early morning hours of March 6th. She's seen in surveillance video going with a group of people to the beach just after 4 a.m. And then most of the group is seen on video leaving the beach before 6 a.m. And the reason we have this in our headlines is that a student at St. Cloud State University, Joshua Reeby, is believed to be the last person to see her alive. There's video showing him leaving the beach around 10 a.m. And again, we should emphasize Reeby's never been accused of a crime. Dominican authorities have held him at the resort as sort of a key witness here as the search efforts have continued for Kananki. But Reeby had told authorities that he was in the water with her when this big wave hit. He struggled to help keep her ashore. And then he says he last saw Kananki in knee-deep water, and he said he was sort of vomiting and fell asleep in a beach chair, and that's the last thing that he remembered. So again, this letter from the parents of Sudiksha Kananki requesting that police now move forward with legally declaring her dead. And they believe that authorities there in the Dominican are correct that she did drown. So we'll have the very latest on this coming up throughout the day, but that is the very latest update on that story this afternoon for you. And then another one that just kind of popped here early this afternoon, Adam Fravel is apparently appealing his murder conviction now to the Minnesota Supreme Court. If that name is familiar, in December, Adam Fravel was sentenced to life in prison for the murder of Madeline Kingsbury. A jury had convicted him of first-degree murder, among some other crimes. She disappeared. It was March of 2023 when she disappeared, and then her body was found months later near the home of Fravel's parents. He and Kingsbury were partners. She's the mother of their two children as well. So again, the new update today is that he's appealing that conviction to the Minnesota Supreme Court. We're gonna try to get to. Well, should we do a little Feeding Our Future update on what we have, Ryan, from Rob right now? I think I can pull some.
Yeah, let's do it here. We've got some tech issues here, so
you go. No,
it's
you're
kind of
fine.
one of those
I got
days.
you.
But let's do it. Let's get through this together.
And you can
here.
work on that if you want. I know you're not going to leave me hanging here, but I do have some updates here from Rob via email, I believe it is. So hang on one second here.
So Rob Olson, closing arguments underway. It looks like the U.S. attorney presented his closing arguments. So this is the plaintiff in the case here.
Yes. Okay. I've got my notes here if you need to get back to some tech stuff. Okay.
You go through it and I won't leave you.
Okay.
You just call for me if you need me.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Okay. So this is the Feeding Our Future case, and this is the trial for founder Amy Bach and another defendant, Saeed Salim. And right now, it sounds like it's really starting to wind down. Amy Bach, her portion of the trial lasted about 4.5 weeks. She ended up taking the stand in her own defense. That part sort of took 4.5 weeks, and then the shorter part was the other defendant who's also on trial here, who is Salim, and he is charged with money laundering. So let me go over Rob's notes here. He just sent these a short time ago. These are some quotes from the assistant U.S. attorney to the jury as the prosecution is now giving its closing arguments in this case. Quote, while everybody else was trying to flatten the curve, they were fattening their wallets. That's what this case is about, end quote. So again, this is the nearly $250 million fraud scheme that took place in the state of Minnesota, where these feeding centers said that they were feeding children who needed meals during the pandemic, and that was determined to be fraudulent. Now we're having the trial for the founder and this other defendant. Again, another quote from the U.S. attorney, assistant U.S. attorney in these closing arguments, quote, they committed a fraud of epic proportions. Quote, those claims were fake. They were full of lies. They weren't feeding kids, but they submitted those fake claims and they received $250 million. Quote, it's not a money-making endeavor. Quote, people don't get into this program to make money. They get into this program to feed kids. That's it, full stop. The program is about making meals, not millionaires. Let's see, the attorney went over each charge to explain the elements of the crimes and then gave some examples of evidence and testimony to support. So again, both Amy Bach and Saeed Salim are charged with conspiracy to commit wire fraud, conspiracy to commit federal programs bribery, and then Salim is also charged with money laundering. So that is the very latest from the courthouse right now. As Rob is in there as we speak, they shifted their lunch break just a little bit. So Rob getting us those notes via email here, and we'll continue to bring you the very latest on that. And I'm just going to kind of keep going through here, Ryan. As
I'm still here. I'm with you. Yeah, a couple big national stories. I'm back on track now.
Oh, are you in? Okay, good. All right.
So we
Sounds
don't
great.
have any graphics right now, so
Oh.
that's why you're not seeing any fancy graphics on the bottom
okay.
of your screen. But look at all the people behind me that are working on it.
Hi,
So
everybody. Who's back there? Oh, is it Tyler? Hi, Tyler.
it's everyone.
Hey,
Amy,
everybody.
it's the entire IT department. They're all back here
But not
working
Kevin. Kevin's at lunch.
on the issues here. So
Hey. Sorry, just giving our little IT guy a little dig there, Kevin. He's great. He's definitely not at lunch. He's definitely helping. Okay, yeah, let's run through a couple of these national stories. And Ryan, I know you had an update on the Putin-Trump call as well a little bit earlier, which I'll try to get through some of those notes. But we are watching for this, the sort of JFK assassination drop that's supposed to happen today. The files released today without any redactions. According to President Trump, he's making good on this promise that he made during his campaign that he was going to lift the veil on these cases. Let's see, 80,000 files total. We're not sure how many were among the ones that are going to be released. Many who have studied what's been released so far by the government say that the public should not anticipate any earth-shattering revelations from the newly released documents. But again, there's still this intense need for details related to the assassination and the events surrounding it. RFK Jr., who is now the Health and Human Services Secretary for the U.S., has said that he's the nephew of JFK. He said he's not convinced that there was a lone gunman solely responsible for his uncle's assassination in 1963. So a lot of people who are very interested in that time in history will be keeping an eye on that drop today. SpaceX, they're coming home. If we could play music, we would play maybe, I don't know, Ryan, a little Motley Crue.
Motley Crue.
Yeah.
I'm thinking the I'm coming home.
Oh, that's a good one, too.
Like when LeBron returned to Cleveland.
Yeah, that was a good one.
What were you thinking?
I was thinking that Motley Crue, that Mama, I'm Coming Home. Isn't that?
That'd be a good one, too.
That one too. Yeah.
Yeah. So not Kickstart My Heart.
No.
No.
But if it's ever, like hair band versus, hair band's going to win.
Oh, of course.
Every time.
Of course.
Let's see. So SpaceXers, they are coming home, and we had a really cool interview that we just did last hour. If you didn't get a chance to see it, hopefully we'll clip that and put that online. But we talked to assistant teaching professor who teaches astronomy, and talked a little bit about how 286 days, it's a long time, and it's a lot longer than they originally thought they were going to be there. They've been there a total of 9 months now, but not the longest. And in fact, Minnesota native and astronaut Mark Vande Hei has spent more time collectively than both of them. So he's the person with the second most consecutive days up there. So that's quite interesting. Okay, so let me just get through this really quick, and then Ryan says we can take a quick break. But so these astronauts have been stuck on the ISS since last spring. Butch Wilmore, Sonny Williams, they're sort of on the tail end of the 17-hour trip now, coming back to Earth on the SpaceX capsule. Let's see, they're going to splash down off the Florida coast. Set your alarm, 4:57 our time. So 5:57 Eastern, and they were only expected to be gone about a week or so. But the good news is we're getting them back. We're getting them back safely. Everybody's good. And our guest was telling us a little bit about something called like space legs, where they're going to have to get acclimated. So he said, don't be surprised if they wheel them out on wheelchairs when they come out, because there's just a lot with your body that has to get acclimated back to being back on Earth. So there you go. All right, let's take a break, and then we're going to try to come. Well, we will come back. We're going to try to come back? No, we're going to come back. For sure, we're coming back.
For sure.
Whether you want us to or not, we're coming back. And then maybe some more weather, because boy, we're just talking about.
Yeah, well, remember I talked about some technical issues, so we're working on that.
Well, so you and I are going to improvise, and Ian's going to love it, because you and I are going to improvise.
That's always fun when we forecast. The weather team loves that.
Yeah, we'll read it right from his notes, I promise.
We'll be right back.
Stay with us. Welcome back to All Day Live. It is 1:17 in the afternoon, and we're glad that you're with us today. We'll go through some headlines, have a couple of more interviews for you, and just so you know, tomorrow, if you're out and about or between sort of noon and 2 range, we're going to be here. We're going to be live, just kind of looking out the window, having some crews out and about, seeing what's going on as this winter weather comes in. More for some of us to the south, not as much to those of you in the North Metro and beyond. But nevertheless, we'll be here and we'll be showing you what's going on out there as well on the roads, things like that. One thing that's happening today, hey Ryan.
Is this where we forecast?
No.
No, okay.
Do you want to?
No.
Yeah,
no,
I don't either.
You summed it up perfect, and we're going to try and get Keith's forecast here for you because he lays it out pretty good, especially when it comes to that. He calls it the wobble effect, and where some of the stronger snow might fall, and then what it kind of looks like in the metro. So it's going to be it's all going to depend on where you are in the state, and even more specifically where you are in the metro.
And you know what? Worst case scenario, I could play something on my phone.
That'd be fun.
I mean, why not?
Let's see here.
You know?
All right, Kevin. Kevin is working on it.
Oh, Kevin's on it. Then we're good.
I give it 50-50 at best.
Oh, hi, Kevin. Thanks for your help. We appreciate you. All right. So let's talk about some of the other things happening in the headlines today. We mentioned it's Disability Services Day at the Capitol. A lot going on. We'll check in with our Corin Hoggard here in just a minute. But there was another press conference today that we wanted to kind of highlight because it sounds like there are some new tools available that could help law enforcement detect drug-impaired driving. Our Simone Woolridge has been sort of listening in on that and taking some notes. So Simone, what was sort of some of the takeaways for you today?
Yeah, I got a lot of notes for you, Amy. Okay, so this started last year. Basically, the officers conducted what they called a pilot project last year where they used these screening devices. And I took a picture for you, Amy, because I figured you might want to know what it looked like. I don't know if you can see it.
Yes,
so you see those two devices, right? Okay, yep. So keep those in your mind, right? And these devices actually detect if someone is impaired and what they are impaired by. So they detect like the recent use of 6 different drug classes and the chemicals actually used in those drugs taken within the last 24 hours. So example, if someone has, consumed cannabis at some point within the last 24 hours, that device actually looks for the active ingredient that causes that high. And so one of the officers that spoke in this press conference has been using these devices. He particularly works in the drug department, if you will. And so he said the way that it worked over the last year, they would stop people, of course, who they thought was impaired, and they would do their normal DWI investigation and their sobriety tests. And then if he thought that he needed to test for a controlled substance, then that's when he told the person that this was voluntary if they wanted to use this particular device because they knew they wanted to use this information for this pilot project. Most of them, he said, were okay with it, and they did it. So they did an oral swab, and then that swab would basically be put into a machine. They would also take blood and urine samples, and then the results would show a positive or negative test for drugs within the last 24 hours. But something I wanted to note to you, Amy, some numbers here is a lot, so I wrote this down. So one of the guys who talked, his name is Mike Hansen. He's the Office of Traffic Safety Director. And so he said that they actually detected drugs in 87.2% of the tests that were taken. He also said the most frequent substances that were detected was cannabinoids, methamphetamine, and also amphetamine. And he detected more than one drug in 62% of the tests, which, if you think about it, more than half the tests taken, which means people had more than one drug in their system. 90% of drivers that tested positive for alcohol also, this was interesting, also tested positive for one or more drugs at the same time. So I know that's a lot of numbers to try to consume, if you will, but I thought that was pretty interesting and goes to the importance of all of this and to have these devices. So he said the next steps pretty much goes to the legislature. They need time to review this report. They have given all the information and the data to them to see if this is something that officers could use at some point.
Yeah.
And they did kind of go through costs as well. So each one of those devices is $5,000. But this is not something where, you know, you use it once and then you're done.
Okay.
They kind of have like cartridges inside, if you think of a printer, to where they can constantly flush those out. And then you still get use out of your $5,000 worth of screening device. And then there's one more thing I wrote down. I think. Oh, yeah. Okay. So he mentioned that. So, of course, they have one of the guys who spoke, one of the officers. His title was Drug Recognition Evaluator. And so, of course, they could use these screening devices, but they also spoke to how officers who don't technically work in that line of work could use these screening devices, which would then help them detect, because they're not necessarily trained in that area, if that makes sense. So pretty interesting information that came out.
Yes. Okay. Oh, thank you for going through that for us. I appreciate it. There's so much happening at the Capitol today, and we were like, how are we going to get to all of this stuff? So thanks for breaking that down, because that's important. Those are big numbers for sure.
It is. And they said like Minnesota has a serious problem with impaired drivers, and so this is a step that they want to take to hopefully get some of those drivers, you know, off the road and save lives, essentially.
Sounds good. Okay. Well, thank you. Appreciate it. We'll see you in a little bit.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Simone.
See ya.
Okay. See ya. All right. I'm glad we were able to get that in there, Ryan. And then Ryan, just so you know, I've got confirmation here on our interview coming up at 1:40. I've got the folks involved. I know our graphics aren't working and things, so I will just kind of read those off as we go.
Well,
here,
update on the graphics.
Okay.
They are working a little bit.
Did Kevin fix it?
Yeah, and I put his odds at 50-50, so that was not kind for me.
Oh man, what would we do without him?
He's great. He really is great.
We keep saying this.
We like to give him a hard time, but
we do. Well, you in particular, you guys have that kind of fun, like, you know.
It's kind of a shtick, you know.
It's a shtick, yeah. We always say we want to have Kevin on and do an IT segment in a regular.
Well,
IT
easy now. Let's, you know.
Oh, maybe that's me. Maybe I'm the one who always says that. No, I said it to you one time and you were like, oh, that'd be pretty quick. Because he would just say,
restart that.
Restart your computer.
Restart, which is what I was trying to do.
But you got it working. Okay, let's see. So I can forward you this. Oh, no, you know what? You're CC'd on this email with the folks we'll be talking to from the Salvation Army coming up. And then do we want to?
Let's take a break here.
Take a break? Okay.
Yep.
Sounds good. All right, and then maybe a little corn hoggard when we come back. Maybe going to the Capitol. Maybe another Zoom here, and then we got to, of course, talk to Ahmad in a little bit here. Got some Vikings moves.
We're gonna do it all.
Everything. I don't know what else you could want. Weather. I mean, we might have Keith back up and
Well,
running.
stand by on
Well,
that.
maybe
Yeah.
not. Okay, but either way, we got you covered.
We do.
All Day Live continues right after this. All right, welcome back to All Day Live. Just wanted to get in some developing news here that they just brought out to me from the newsroom. So this is a City of Bloomington information release that I'm just going to kind of read as I'm reading it in real time here. I'm just going to read kind of from the release so I get it right. 40-year-old Grand Rapids man in custody today following his arrest for allegedly soliciting a minor for prostitution. And it appears as though the man is identified as Justin David Eichhorn of Grand Rapids, who is also a state senator in the state of Minnesota. So let me read through this. Bloomington Police Department detectives communicated with this man who thought he was talking to a 16-year-old female. On March 17th, a detective arranged to meet with the male at a location, Normandale in Bloomington. So again, the male identified as Justin Eichhorn, age 40 of Grand Rapids, observed arriving in the area by pickup truck, arrested without incident outside of the vehicle by Bloomington PD, booked into the jail. And let's see, just reading through this in real time here. Active investigation information will be released as it becomes available. We do have a statement by Senate Majority Leader Aaron Murphy, who says, quote, "The felony allegation against Senator Eichhorn is deeply disturbing and raises serious questions that will need to be answered by the court as well as his caucus and constituents." So let me just, as I'm reading through that, hang on one second here. Just want to go through this. Let's see. Okay, sorry, just reading through latest notes here. And we'll talk to Corin in just a second. He's at the Capitol covering some other things. But it looks like State Senator Eichhorn. Okay. Okay, Ryan, do you want to go? Okay, let's go to Corin at the Capitol right now. We were just going to kind of check in on some other things that are happening. There's a lot going on at the Capitol. Corin, I don't know how much of this you've been able to get your eyes on, if at all. But that's just kind of
seen it all.
We have.
Amy, Senator Eichhorn is currently MIA at a state and local government committee hearing that he normally would be sitting on. I've also talked to Minority Leader Mark Johnson, who says he was just getting the information same time as I was, but he will comment later. Senator Eichhorn is one of the 5 Republican senators who put forward the bill very recently to declare Trump derangement syndrome as a mental illness. So he's made some waves here very recently, and now it appears he's making some waves with the Bloomington Police Department. Their press release said that he was in the Bloomington jail. They were moving him to Hennepin County. He's in neither of those at the moment. So he's either been bailed out or he's in transition somewhere, but he is not here at the Capitol.
Okay. All right. Okay. Got it. Thank you for that update. Yeah, we'll continue to obviously follow that here in the next 30 minutes and then throughout the day as well on our website and our newscast. So, Corin, there's a lot going on today, as always, at the Capitol. We talked a little bit about Disability Services Day, Ag Day as well, I understand.
There's always a day for everybody, but those are 2 of the biggest ones. The crowd here for their Disabilities Day was pretty ginormous, I would say. And yeah, Governor Walz spoke to all the folks here on the Capitol steps for Ag Day as well. And I was just going back through some of that. But yeah, I think from my perspective, it's Cannabis Day because both of the Commerce committees are dealing with a number of bills concerning cannabis. Everything from just, some minor corrections to the things that they've done over the last couple of years. And as they've started getting to the point where they're actually ready to license just about, they have realized there are some little snags there. But then there are some other bigger things. A lot of folks are trying to, the governor and his office can negotiate with the tribes, and they are negotiating compacts with the tribes to allow the tribes to have cannabis businesses off reservation. And that is a kind of a line in the sand for a lot of folks here at the Capitol, because they don't want those guys to get a jump start on the competition, because it's taken the Office of Cannabis Management a long time to get to actually licensing folks. So we've had the tribal businesses that have been up and running for quite a while now. It'll be a year almost coming up at the end of this session. So they have that advantage, and if they actually get to do it off reservation, a lot of them, I've done a story last year about one of them has already bought property in Moorhead, for example, but there are others closer to the Twin Cities here that are getting ready to go. And so basically, when are we going to actually get retail? Yeah. And will the tribes be able to set up retail off reservation before other businesses get the chance to do that? So that's kind of a hot button issue here. A lot of the medical cannabis folks are a little upset too, because basically as soon as a recreational market opens, medical markets tend to just shrink. They don't grow anymore because people either just go into the recreational because it's a lot easier than trying to get a doctor's note saying that you should have cannabis. The savings are only on the tax because medical cannabis patients don't get taxed. And yet, to get these people to actually produce both medical cannabis and recreational cannabis, they have to have completely separate supply chains. So if you are a medical producer, who are the only people who are actually producing in the state right now, you can't kind of commingle your medical with your recreational, and then you're only allowed to grow a certain amount of. Anyway, long story short, the medical folks are worried that the medical cannabis industry is going to collapse if they don't make some changes here.
A lot of weeds, a lot of pardon. You know what? I didn't mean to do that. We're in the weeds with a lot of this. But what I meant to, you can use that, by the way. What I meant to say was, I mean, even just taking a bigger look at this, I know this is not your story today, but we've covered the Office of Cannabis Management and kind of the really rocky start. Do you happen to know what the very latest is as far as, do they have the director yet? Is it still interim? They switched a couple people?
They took their chief lawyer and made him the new interim director. Okay. So he's the one who's out there today making all the recommendations and answering the questions about, he doesn't really have, well, he does have some role in the tribal compacts, although that's typically just the governor's office. But, everything from that to what canopy is allowed for growers, to whether the state should have reciprocity with other states that allow, especially medical, but maybe recreational as well. So if you're from, Iowa has legal medical cannabis. If you're from Iowa and you step into Minnesota, you're not supposed to bring it across state lines, but then you're also not allowed to buy it here under your medical license in Iowa. So they want to change that, where it'll be like, checking your driver's license for 21-year-olds going into a bar.
Okay. Interesting. There's just so much there, and to your point, it's I feel like I knew this at one time, Corin, when I was doing a lot of research on this, but Minnesota is just taking an awfully long time to get to the place where we're going to be able to sell this.
We're going to be, at best, at this point, the third slowest state to go from legalization to actual retail sales, licensed.
Wow. Okay, I know you got to get going and do some other stuff, but one of our talkers today is that it's National Awkward Moment Day. I'm just springing this on you. Do you have something in your mind that sticks out to you as a super awkward moment?
This is an awkward question, but I'm trying to think. I've definitely had many awkward moments throughout my life. I'm just, I am a person who puts his foot in his mouth probably more often than you might think. So, trying to think of most awkward moment. I've had so many of them, it's hard to pick.
Like as a reporter, did you ever say anything to somebody when you're interviewing them, or?
Yeah, here, when I started, for example, I might assume somebody's the wrong party or something along those lines. I've definitely done that here. Oh, just recently. I like to greet all of the lawmakers by name when I see them. And so I've tried to memorize all of their faces and their names if I don't interact with them a lot. So I recently went up to Representative Don Gilman and said, "Good morning, Representative Zalesnikar." She's like, "It's Gilman, but close."
Oh, and if only she knew how hard you'd been trying to, to memorize and to do it right. And then,
Yep. I'm still batting about 95%, 950. So that's a Hall of Famer in baseball, but a little embarrassing here at the Capitol.
No, it's all good. Just trust me, Ryan will trump you on whatever you've got. He's gonna have one that's a doozy. I can just feel it. Sure. I know it. It's brewing. Yeah. All right, Corin, thank you. Appreciate your time. We'll talk to you a little bit later, and we'll see everything you've come up with here at 5 and 6 tonight, and then on our website as well. Thanks.
All right. Good to see you.
Okay, good to see you too. Take care. All right, let's take a break and come on back. We're going to talk with the Salvation Army when we come back because they have some good things going on where they're starting up a program here that's going to be good for that part of the community that they're serving. And then also Ryan is going to tell us what his awkward moment is too. I'm building this up, Brian, like it's going to be something incredible, and it's probably nothing.
I got a good one for you.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, let's take a break. We'll be right back. All of that and more when All Day Live continues right after this. And welcome back to All Day Live. It's 1:40, and we wanted to share an interview with you with some folks from the Salvation Army. We got an email from them yesterday, and I was reading through it, and I thought, oh, this is kind of cool that they're doing this and serving some folks in a way that they haven't in quite some time. So if we could bring in our guest major, Clara Braddock and Chris Stengel, is that right?
Yes. Yep.
Thanks so much for joining us, you two.
Thank you for having us.
And so Major Braddock, you are, and I just lost your, hang on a second. You are the Parkview Service Center Administrator, and Chris, you are the Food Service Coordinator. And we wanted to bring the story to folks' attention because during the pandemic, of course, so much changed and services changed. For services, for organizations like the Salvation Army. Tell us about what is happening now with hot meals.
So we're serving hot meals. We've been dreaming about this for a good while. I'm trying to get everything in place. So today was our first day, and our goal, with the economy the way it is, we just found that people needed some help making their dollars stretch. And one of the ways for them to make the dollars stretch, of course, is to have the ability to go get meals at times. So we're back to serving meals, and Chris here is our cook, and We've been grateful to have him.
Yeah, and Chris, I was just taking a look at, you served the first hot one today, hot meal. Tell me a little bit about it. How did it go? I'm just looking at some of the things you were able to provide. Just really wonderful.
It was great. We had a turkey dinner with turkey and stuff in there, mashed potatoes and the fixings and stuff like that to set it off for the first night or whatever. We heard about it before. The service before us was serving a bag lunch or whatever, so we wanted to go with something hot and a little bit more personal when having the people inside and sitting down with us to connect with them or whatever, and we can talk to them and and connect more with the neighborhood and the community around us, which I think is a big part of the whole deal. And like Major said, with the economy being the way it is, and the guys that went down to the legislature and stuff like that, the food thing is coming up to being a problem. So we're trying to nip it in the bud and get where we can and just spread what we have, our gifts and us and throughout the neighborhood or whatever in the community.
I definitely want to talk more about the food insecurity piece as well and get more specific about that. But Chris, I'm just wondering if you had a chance to talk with any of the folks who had a chance to eat today. How were they feeling about it? Did you get any feedback from them?
Yeah, we got a little. I went out and asked everybody how the food was exactly. We'd like to get our numbers up a little bit. We didn't have as many people as we expected today, but we're looking to get a little bit more of. We're gonna get some flyers out and stuff like that, and get it by word of mouth and stuff like that, and then we'll hopefully get the numbers up. But yeah, I'd like to try to get everything as soon as it gets running a little bit smoother. Like I said, today was the first day, so I was a little jittery or whatever today to get out. But I'd like to get out and connect with everybody as they come in, and just to connect with people.
One of the guys said that he thought the food was dynamite.
That's fantastic. And like you said, you've had the bagged meals and the food available, but a hot meal, is something that is so important. And Major Braddock, it sounds like you guys have a kind of a very specific plan here in launching this meal on Tuesdays. And then how do you hope to kind of expand from here?
Well, right now we're doing Tuesdays for 1 month, and then next month, toward the end of April, we will increase it to Mondays and Tuesdays and Thursdays. Okay. And then by summer, we're hoping to have 5 days a week, but we will gradually increase the number of days.
Okay. And this is the Parkview Service Center, which is in North Lindale in Minneapolis. Will there be a need for more volunteers in order to expand services as well?
Yes, we could use the volunteers, absolutely. That would be extremely helpful.
If you can run an ice cream scoop, come down and see us.
Oh my goodness, yeah, that just opened the door for a lot of people. So I hope you get some more help as well as you continue to expand and serve the people in that community. Also, can I ask you about this summer? Because I thought there might be a hope for something to do this summer involving maybe children too.
Right. So one of the goals is that, especially in the summer, I know that meals are provided in various ways, but we're still wanting to do the hot meal and trying to make it more of a family meal where the family can come. They don't have to worry about cooking. They don't have to worry about any of that. We will do that. They just sit and enjoy their children. And so at some point, we'd like to move it from lunch to dinner, just so more families can be involved.
Okay. I let you guys go here. I just really wanted to emphasize to people, because I think it can become white noise, the food insecurity right now that we're seeing in our communities. And just if one of you wanted to speak to that, that would be great.
Well, we do have a pantry here as well, but it's one thing to have that pantry, and what we're finding is there's so much need. Like, we have a lot more people coming and visiting the pantry. We've increased the number of hours in which we open the pantry because of the need for food. And I do think it's one of those things you hear a lot of conversation about, and I don't think we understand how much of a need it is in our community, and probably in a lot more communities as well.
150% increase in the last 3 years is the number that I'm seeing, which is hard to kind of wrap your head around. So, okay, thanks to you both for the work that you're doing and the way you're serving our community, and we hope to see some expansion of that, and we hope that you can get some more volunteers in there to help out as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for having us.
You bet. Take care, you guys. All right. Ryan, do we want to take a break, or do we want to keep going?
We're gonna hang here.
Okay.
Give me a second. Ahmad is he's waiting to get on here. I
Sounds
just gotta.
Good. Yep, you do what you need to do. We talked to Ahmad last hour. We had so much to talk about. We mostly spent most of our time talking about the Timberwolves, and I know people are like, I don't want to talk about it. They lost last night. It was terrible. Yeah, it sucked, but there's a lot of bright spots, and they had this 8-game winning streak, and they're going to get back on the horse. I think it was just a little blip. Some good things to take away from that, but also some Vikings moves too that we want to talk to Ahmad about that just happened today. Every day it feels like there's something going on with the Vikings. So,
and I think Ahmad is ready to go here, so let's bring him in.
All right, Ahmad. Hey.
Poof.
All right.
Hey guys.
Cool. Again, in case people weren't with us last hour, cool sweatshirt.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Love it.
I had to bring it in from the house.
Nice. So I guess let's talk Vikings first, Ahmad. We touched on this a little bit last hour. For those who might have missed it, we got a little bit of movement.
Yeah. The Adam Schefter and the Vikings announced earlier that they signed Jeff Okudah to be a cornerback on the team, a 1-year deal. I can't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but it was a very team-friendly deal. Kwesi continues to cook this offseason. He's doing a phenomenal job right now. Jeff Okudah, though, he's been on several teams in his 5-year NFL career. He went from being the number 3 overall pick, I believe, in the 2019 draft to now playing on his 4th team in 5 or 6 years. So that's kind of a red flag when you're bouncing around that much, especially when you are that talented coming out of Ohio State. But nonetheless, I think he's a good addition for the secondary for the Vikings that still needs a ton of depth. I mean, you think about the guys that they lost last year, Stephon Gilmore and Shaq Griffin. Those are hard guys to replace. So Byron Murphy, good guy to bring back, but you still need that veteran presence, I believe, like a Stephon Gilmore brought. And Jeff Okudah's not exactly that, but he's certainly good enough to play in a Brian Flores type defense.
Yeah, a lot of great moves. Can I ask you about this? I'm not going to beat the Aaron Rodgers sort of dead horse storyline here, but I do want to sort of ask you about as people are starting to watch possibilities come off the table one at a time, and then you kind of get down to, well, is he one of a few people who's left? Is that the case or not?
Yeah, I mean, in my eyes, I think I tweeted out last week, I was like, the longer they wait, the more dominoes are falling for backup quarterbacks. And there's only a handful that you really want to come in. I think Joe Flacco will kind of be perfect, although he's been on the record saying he's not really a mentor type guy. Jameis Winston, I feel like, would be perfect. You want someone who's going to come in and embrace that backup role, not try and take the spotlight off J.J. McCarthy, and someone who's willing to help, mature and develop that young guy. I don't think you want anybody who's like a Daniel Jones type, who's coming in, who wants to compete for the number 1 spot and feels like they have something to prove to where J.J. McCarthy is, looking over his shoulder. That's exactly why I don't think Aaron Rodgers would be a good fit for the Vikings, although he is a future Hall of Fame type quarterback. Yes, I think his best days are behind him, though, and I just think he brings a lot of baggage to this team. And I think if the plan is to develop J.J. and let him be your franchise quarterback, you need to start now so you can find out what you have, especially with all these talented pieces around him.
Okay. Ryan, how much time do we have left with Ahmad? We can keep going a little bit. Let's talk about Wolves, if we could. I know some people are going to turn it off. I don't want to hear about it. I'm mad. I get it. I mean, we were all watching last night, and it was really frustrating Ahmad to see him drop it. But I mean, even Chris Finch said it was dropped in the first half of this game. It wasn't what happened at the very end. What's your takeaway from last night coming off of this 8-game winning streak?
I just got Obi Toppin. I mean, literally, that's all. They had so many opportunities to win that game last night. Came back from double digits, to find themselves in the game and be competitive. Had a chance to win it at the end of regulation. Very poor shot selection by Anthony Edwards. Then had another chance to win it in overtime, but Obi Toppin just hit that incredible shot in the corner. I mean, life happens. Sometimes somebody just has a good game in basketball. You tip your cap to them. Tip your cap to them. And you just say, you know what, you got me, but I got you next time. The Pacers are a playoff quality team, so it's not like these are some scrubs that they lost to that are a 13th seed in the Eastern Conference. Like, they're still a good basketball team, and backups get paid just like starters, just not as much. So sucks to see that win streak get snapped, but it all amounts to how they bounce back tonight. I think that's the big thing.
Yeah, and we talk about that Western Conference and just how stacked it is and how little room there is for error within that, right? It's just crazy.
Yeah, it's super competitive. I mean, I feel like years ago, the West used to be like, it was the 1 and 2 seed, and then that's all you had. Whereas now, the 6 through the 10 seed is all separated by 3 or 4 games. And really, if you look at from the 1 seed all the way down, everyone is so close. They're only like 8 games apart. So that just speaks to how competitive the NBA is, especially the Western Conference. So, the only thing you can do to help yourself is win. And luckily for the Timberwolves, they have the 3rd easiest schedule to close out the season. So they just need to, stack up some wins, and I think the rest will take care of itself. But hopefully they can get that 6th spot and avoid the play-in tournament, because that's not anywhere you want to be if you're the Timberwolves.
For sure, absolutely. Just mention really quick, I didn't see it, or the Wild won 3-1, so that's good for them. And then also, Ryan, do you want to pop back in here to talk about March Madness?
Of course. I'd love to talk March Madness.
Okay. What do we need to know heading into the tourney?
Well, the first 4 games begin tonight, so this is kind of the appetizer. But I call it the real tournament. It starts on Thursday. So what do we need to know? Am I one to give bracket advice? No, I've never won a bracket pool. I always feel so great about it. I fill it out, I sign it. I think this is going to be the one, but it never is. I don't know, Ahmad, who you like. I mean, I think I'm kind of jumping on the Florida bandwagon, but I think everyone kind of is. Ahmad, what do you think?
They're tough. I honestly, you got to say Florida, you got to say Duke. If Cooper Flag gets Duke back, if Duke gets Cooper Flag back and he's 100% healthy, or just even 90%, I think Duke and Florida are just on a collision course to play one another. Those are some of my favorites. I'm just thinking about first round matchups though, 16 versus 1. I know I saw something last night that SIU Edwardsville is picked, the most to upset a Houston team, in regards to that 16-1 upset. I went to Southern Illinois University Carbondale, not Edwardsville, but I covered this guy named Rayshawn Taylor who plays for the Cougars, so I'm a big fan of him. So I'm rooting for them on day 1 of the tournament. That's my upset that I'm going for. Other than that, I do not believe North Carolina should be in the first the play-in tournament. Right now, the NCAA, they had a horrible year, so I kind of disappointed on some teams that didn't get in, but I'm excited for the madness. No, I can't give you guys any advice. Just go find somebody, tell them to pick their favorite team based on like jersey color or something like that. Ask somebody who knows nothing about basketball, because those are typically the people that have the best success when filling out brackets.
I was going to say, Houston and Henry should get together, right? And then we just kind of let them walk over to whatever they think, and that's how we're going to pick them. That probably would
happen if I filled out a bracket, took my time, looked up some stats, and then I just had Houston pick winners. I'm sure he would have a better bracket than me. That's just how that stuff goes.
That's how it goes. Yeah. Probably. Same with Henry. He could do a better job than I can.
Ahmad, you know that Ryan takes off 2 days every year for this.
Look,
right?
I don't blame you. There's a lot of basketball on television. There's a lot of games to be watched. I totally understand sitting at home and doing nothing but watching basketball all day long. I am with you,
Amy
Ryan,
would be left out on her own. She'd be like, Ryan, can we go to this? And I would just be looking off to the side. So it's better for everyone involved.
Better for everybody.
It's good for me that I work in sports because I can watch TV. True. And that's actually what I get paid to do. Yeah. So it's like if I get lost in the sauce watching the game, no one's mad as long as I don't miss slot and not show up on set.
Exactly.
So, we'll be good.
You got First and North that you're going to be doing here shortly, right?
Yeah, I do. That's actually coming up on Fox Local. They air it in Chicago, I believe, on Tuesday nights. I'm not sure the exact time, but we're going to be talking about the NFC North. I'm sure they're going to ask me about Jeff Okudah coming and signing with the Minnesota Vikings. I'm pretty certain they're going to ask me about Aaron Rodgers and his interest in coming here. That story that everyone loves to keep talking about. So we're going to discuss all things leading up to the draft and kind of what the offseason has looked like for the Minnesota Vikings thus far and the rest of the teams in the NFC North. That tapes at 2:30 and then airs later tonight.
All right, we got about 2 minutes, Ryan, and I need to know, Ahmad, I'll let you think about it, so I'll ask Ryan, what is your most awkward moment? Go.
Okay.
It's National Awkward Moment Day, Ahmad.
It's Fox 9 related too. We all know Leah Bino from the Fox 9 Morning News. So about 15 years ago when I just started here. And we were at kind of a work function outside. Someone was leaving. So, and this woman comes up to me and just starts having a conversation with me. And she is nice as can be. And I'm sitting here the whole time going, who is this? And who is so friendly to me? And
30 seconds.
No, we got 90 seconds.
Oh,
90
okay.
seconds. And anyways, Turns out it was Leah Bino. Now, when Leah Bino has curly hair, she is almost unrecognizable. Wow. And to the point where I had a full conversation with her, and I had worked with her for a year at this point, had no idea. And I had to say at one point, I go, I'm sorry, have we met yet?
Oh,
and she
you
goes,
didn't. Oh.
It's Leah. I'm Leah.
That is awkward.
So she'll ask her about it sometime.
Okay, Ahmad, you got one?
I think my most awkward moment happened to be my first year here at Fox 9. We did a Vikings tailgate show or something like that at a bar in the city. I can't really recall right now, but we did an entire hour-long show. Myself, Jim Rich, Pete Bursich. I was there. I was a co-host with Jim, so we did a whole hour-long show. And as soon as we wrapped up, a lady came up to me. She shook my hand, said, "Is that Pete?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Is that Jim?" I said, "Yeah." She goes, "Who are you?" And I was like, "I work here at Fox and just did that entire show with them." She's like, "Oh, I didn't know."
So good.
So yes, that was pretty awkward, but it was all right though. It was still a funny moment.
I know. We could write a book, you guys, right? All of our fun.
Yeah, and I'm sure my
Absolutely.
most awkward moment is yet to come too. I'm sure that's coming in years
Oh,
ahead.
for sure.
So,
Both
yeah.
of you have
They'll
young
keep
kids.
coming.
You got a whole life
Yep.
ahead of you of awkward moments with them. So
10 seconds now.
All right, thanks for joining us, everybody. Ahmad, have fun on First and North, and thanks for watching. We'll be back here tomorrow as the weather rolls in.
Our Good Day program live there as well. Hopefully you can make it to get some free coffee on us one last time. Thanks for joining us. Sherry is up next. The news continues on Fox Local on your smart TV. I'll see you again tomorrow for the Fox 9 Morning News, where we're
You're watching Fox 9 all day.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks so much for watching All Day Live. I'm Amy Hockert, looking forward to a great day today, a great couple of hours. Here's just some of the things we have on tap for you today. We've got some weather that's moving into the state. I don't know if you've heard. It's going to likely mess things up for your morning commute, and then depending upon where you are in Minnesota, you may get more, you may get a little less. Maybe you won't get much at all. Keith Marler is going to join us here in a minute to chat about that. Plus, those two NASA astronauts who have been in the International Space Station now for 9 months are on their way home, splashdown later this afternoon. So we're going to talk with an astronomy professor because we have a lot of questions. What's it been like for them up there? What does this mean for the space program overall? Had a great chat with him just a little bit ago on the phone, and I think you'll enjoy hearing from him as well. We're going to talk a little sports. Unfortunately, the Timberwolves winning streak came to an end last night in very dramatic fashion. But we're not panicking. Nobody's panicking. You know, it's going to be just fine. So we'll have that conversation with Ahmad Hicks. The Wild, though, pulled one out. So we'll talk about all of your sports as we head into March Madness as well. And then also today, I don't know if you've seen this story this morning. Shane Wells met these two gentlemen, two twin brothers, who have made Perkins a part of their morning routine. That doesn't sound all that unusual, but they've been doing it in a way that if you haven't seen this, you may not believe. And now Perkins is actually saying thank you to them in a pretty big way. So stay tuned for that. A lot more coming up here on the show. A great couple of hours here. So March in Minnesota, as I'm kind of looking out the window here, you know, it's this roller coaster ride that we always jump on, and then we just kind of hold on and see what it brings. Yesterday in the 60s, now we're looking at a blizzard warning for southern Minnesota, and here in the metro, we could see, you know, anything from a winter storm watch in the southern counties to a winter weather advisory a little bit farther north. But we asked Keith Marler just to help us understand what is going on. Keith?
Amy, a mess is a-coming for some of the state. Some of the state has no clue. Well, not necessarily. Some of the state just won't see it. Area of low pressure that was moving on shore across the Pacific Ocean and into the west coast came ashore yesterday, now crossing the Rocky Mountains and is headed up our way and heading into Wisconsin. Ultimately, you can see the path of that with blizzard warnings across parts of Kansas, Nebraska, into Iowa for later today and tonight, and then into our neck of the woods for late tonight and into tomorrow for heavy snow and a combination of that with wind gusts to 50 plus miles per hour, causing whiteout conditions and probably be some road closures as well. The blue zone would be winter weather advisories, and the white zone, that's still the winter storm watch. This will be upgraded at some point this afternoon or this evening into some type of advisory or warning. I'm going to go with probably a blizzard warning for southeastern Minnesota as a whole, but heavy snow and strong winds to 50 miles per hour. Again, whiteouts probably. Visibility is less than, again, quarter mile, and there'll probably be road closures on Interstate 90, probably on Interstate 35, just like we had 2 weeks ago on Wednesday. Heavy, wet snow combined with a blowing wind will cause visibility restrictions as the snow is falling, but once it splats, it'll be hard to move around. Advisory zone into the Twin Cities is for the lesser amounts of snow and the still gusty winds, but not quite as powerful. And again, the watch is in place for the wobble of uncertainty that's still in place, because as this storm approaches, the path will determine greatly the sharp cutoff of not just how much is going to fall, but also snow versus no snow. That's going to be a big issue as well, as the Northwest Metro will see much lesser amounts. And if it wobbles too far to the south, which it might be doing, there might not be almost any snow on the north side of town. If it wobbles too far to the north, which is looking less likely, the North Metro might be in it as well. So for today, clearing back to sunshine. Overall, sure, that's all well and good. We'll go to the 50s, but here comes the snow overnight tonight, or at least a wintry mix. We'll tease that into tomorrow morning's commute, but there won't be much falling at the beginning of the commute. We'll certainly evolve it through the commute, and then we'll see some accumulating snows roll. This is as it stands right now, Amy. The snow begins to kind of accumulate over the course of the commute, and then it really gets going. The heaviest of snows in southeastern Minnesota. Notice that razor sharp edge right through the Twin Cities overall. I'm just going to leave my hand there through the noon hour and through the 4 o'clock hour, and notice it just pivots right there and gets out of here by 7 o'clock. Tomorrow evening, it starts to shut down over the evening commute. Should stop falling by that point. And then we're back into sunshine as we go on into the day on Thursday. So this is just a Wednesday affair. When it comes to those totals, this is as it stands at the moment. A trace to 2 inches on the northwest side of town, 2 to 5 on the southeast side of town with some pluses there. The pluses are for 6 and 7s. If it wobbles to the south, like it might be doing, we might have to take out some of these on the north side of town, much like what you see from Pine City to St. Cloud. Not much of anything. That might creep on down. But the 5 to 10 plusers, this is the bullseye as always across the southeastern part of the state. This is where the 50-mile-per-hour winds will go. So there's a lot of wiggle room here. I don't think we're going to see the 10 inches up into the southeast metro unless it shifts to the north, but all signs are pointing to either a static or a slight southern shift to the system as it stands. Talk about frustrating. This is why I love March. And I put love in quotes. I do not. On the back side of this, we'll warm up, we'll melt things off, and things are looking up again as we head on into Thursday and Friday. Friday, we're back to around 50 again. Amy?
Like it never happened. All right, Keith, thank you. A big update today, checking some headlines here in the missing college student in the Dominican Republic. So the parents of Sudiksha Konanki have sent a letter to Dominican authorities early this morning saying that they do not believe there was foul play in their daughter's disappearance, and they actually want investigators to move forward with a death declaration. Now, Konanki, a University of Pittsburgh student from Virginia, disappeared. It was spring break on the Rio Republica resort in the early morning hours of March 6th. She's seen in that surveillance video going with a group to the beach shortly after 4 a.m. It sounds like the power went out in the hotel and they sent everybody down or outside, and this group went to the beach. Most of the group is seen on a video then leaving the beach before 6 a.m. But a young man by the name of Joshua Reeby, St. Cloud State University student, is believed to be the last person to see her alive. There is video showing him leaving the beach around 10 a.m. Now, Reeby has never been accused of a crime. Dominican authorities, though, have held him in his resort room as a key witness as the search efforts have continued for Konanki. But again, the very latest here this morning is the letter from her parents to Dominican authorities saying they believe that she, along with